Now let's head to the last setup option that I'll show to you is how to modify your configuration wizard in order to print from the printers that are not on the list of the vendors, but are using a firmware that is compatible with Prusa Slicer. In our configuration wizard, we are going to jump straight to custom printer. Let's say that I'm using a newer version of Creality. So I'm gonna click on define custom printer profiles. I'm gonna say that I'm using the Creality 3 version 3 SE, and don't forget to add dashes or underscores because the name of the profile cannot be with spaces. So I'm gonna name the profile based on the printer that I'm using, and I'm gonna click on next. Now I'm going to be prompted with the question of the firmware that I'm using. So I have to head to the page of my vendor. So you have to always check for the official page of your vendor, or if you are allowed to use AI, then you can use, for example, Perplexity to find the firmware version of your printer, but always double check if the information that you're getting from the AI is correct. So the Ender 3 V3 SE uses Madeline, which is one type of the firmware. So we can head to our slicer and choose Madeline. So we're going to click on Madeline, just simple Madeline. And now we're going to check for the dimensions of the bed and the size. So the width is 22 centimeters. The length, it's also 22 centimeters, and the height is 25 centimeters. So we are going to set this in the Prusa Slicer. We are going to set that the width is 22, which means 220 millimeters. The shape is rectangular. Different printers have different bed shape. So we can have a printer with usually circular and rectangular are the most common, but some printers have like common triangular shapes and for different reasons, or oval that are not completely circle. We are going to use rectangular for the Creality because most of the printers that I think you will be using will be the ones with the rectangular shape. Then we are going to choose the origin, which is the home. Usually all of the printers have the starter point at the bottom left corner. So we're going to say that it's 0, 0. We are going to omit that. We are going to move next to another parameter, which is the height, which was 250 millimeters, 25 centimeters. Now we're going to choose the print diameter. So we're going to set up what is the diameter of the nozzle. As I said to you, usually it's 0.4 for most of the printers, but if you want to make sure and check, then we can check it on the website. Here you can see nozzle diameter 0.4, and then we can also check the diameter of the filament that's going to be extruded. Okay, so here you can see that the diameter is 1.75 millimeters. Perfect. So we're going to leave it as it is, and we're going to check for temperatures. We're going to focus mostly on the extrusion temperature, which is the temperature that we are going to set for our TPU, because we're going to print from TPUs. Of course, we can change that anytime, but since we already know that we are going to print from TPUs mostly, then I can already tell you that we are going to use temperatures around 230, and the bed temperature for our TPU will be around 50. Sometimes it's 60, depending if we're assembly printing, but 50 or 40 or 30 works also as well. You will hear a lot of resources telling you that you don't have to print. You can print on the cold printer, but what I've found out, and from my experience, is that the prints, since we are printing very thin layers and we want it to really set on the build plate, then it's better to preheat the build plate so it really catches the filament better. So we are going to add temperature, even though it might not be needed, or maybe on your printer it might not be needed. So let's set it to 230 and click on next. Let's choose the filament. We're going to click on flex, all the vendors, and click here on the generic flex filament. Now we're going to move to SLA materials. We don't want that. Updates are okay. We don't want to download anything. Reload disk, view mode, and finish. And now we have you can see that our build plate has changed, and the settings for the printer has been named based on the profile we used. So you can see that we have Creality V3 SE printer here, and you can just move through the printers. We can choose the Creality Ender that we had before, and it changes the build plate. You can choose the mini, or we can choose the profile that we have preset that we created. So this is our profile with the bed that responds specifically to the dimensions of our build plate and of our sheet. Wonderful. As I said before, don't worry if you can't find all of the information. It's a little bit harder to It might be a little bit hard to set up your printer. If it's hard for you, if you're not able to set up your Prusa slicer, then you have two options. One of them is to use the slicer that you're used to using, or you can just reach out to me and I'll help you set up your Prusa slicer or any slicer for you, so you can follow along and move on with the courses. Wonderful. We have everything prepared. Now let's head finally to slicing our first swatch, and then let's head to printing.